episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on April the 24th, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, keeping me from playing Battletech,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will of course be discussing the games that we've played. We're going to be talking about this month's Game Club, which is 80 days. We're going to be revealing our next Game Club game. The Everspace devs claim they paid thousands for a pro streamer who played like a fucking moron. We'll have our weekly community corner. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rach. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing all right. How about you?
Pretty good. So, do you think we'll be able to make it without talking about Battletech the whole podcast? Because
Definitely not.
we spent a lot of our pre-podcast talkie time being like, oh, so what do you think about the new Battletech game? Oh, yeah, it's pretty great. Let's talk about all the stuff that we've done so far and our strategies. And, oh, well, looky there.
And how I have this running thing of half destroying my light mechs.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, by me bringing that up, we're already talking about it, sort of.
Yeah, that's why I said, definitely not.
Fair play. Fair play. Yeah, I'm tired. A little bit, and we're getting a late start because I went to a charity dinner that my wife helped put together this week, and it was boring. I hate events like that. But Katie was nervous.
Just wondering, did you see why I tweeted you?
No. The signal was terrible where we were. Like, I had basic cell service, but not data, so
I didn't
my
even
apps
get
or
your
anything were working.
messages until way later.
Oh, well, that would definitely explain why you didn't respond. Because I had a little story with a lady. So there was a silent auction. There was a silent auction at this charity event because, there are at most charity events. And we won some stuff. And so I was waiting in line because, Katie was one of the organizers for this event. So she was having to do other things. So I went to go stand in line. And the lady in front of me, her forehead was the biggest forehead I've ever seen on a person ever. It was gigantic. And she was this tiny lady. Like, she was at best 5 feet tall. Like, she was way shorter than me. And I'm not a tall person. And she was, like, super petite, skinny. But she had this massive protruding forehead. And I could not stop staring. I just couldn't help myself. And then eventually she noticed. And she gave me, like, this mean look, and I just nodded at her and smiled like I didn't know what was going on, but she knew that I knew. She knew. And yeah, the music was terrible. It was country and western. I mean, they had some local band. I'm sure that other people liked it, but I did not. I prefer rock or silence or nails on a chalkboard. So
yeah, but what I tweeted you was the reference that I did in the text I sent you.
Yeah, Please, I see that now. I'm looking now. Oh, we got both kinds. We got country and western. Yeah,
and then Jake's just it's like, oh jeez.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't like a terrible evening. The food was pretty good. They had a really good speaker who was a therapist, and so I went and had a little chat with her afterwards before I realized I had to go wait in the infinitely long line to pick up the stuff that we won and pay for it. But overall, it was all right. But now I'm here. And I'm ready to talk about things. Because there's a game I want to play. So in order to do that, first we have to talk about the games that we played this week. Bam! Rach, what games did you play this week?
Oh, well, let's start off with a game that... Well, all my games are review copies this week. And one that I started playing and realized it's kind of shit. Or at least in its current incarnation. Hero Academy 2. And the reason why I think it's shit right now is its deck builder is horrendous.
Okay.
So for those who never heard of Hero Academy and Hero Academy 2 are a combination CCG strategy game where you put units on a table and you move around, shoot one another, and then you try to destroy each other's crystals. I mean, it's pretty much standard for this mini genre of CCG. And it has a lot of single-player content, which I like. It has also a fucking steep price tag for what it is. It's $20 on Steam. Yeah, but it's going to be free to play, and they basically just front load you with a bunch of the paid stuff, a bunch of premium currency and that sort of thing.
Right.
Well, what I hate about it is the deck builder. They don't show you a damn thing other than card art in the deck builder. The deck builder that they show in the that's not the deck builder in the Steam store page. That's the library. Or they've changed it since then, because I'm looking at the Steam store page and that is not nearly what I had to try to deal with in the game itself. It doesn't show any stats whatsoever. So you're having to go through and click each individual card to figure out what the hell they are. And it is just atrocious. And beyond that, there was also a mechanic in the game that I absolutely hate. Alright, pretty standard for these type of games, especially ones that are driven by units, is that they have individual power-ups, buff that you put on the card and it gets so much extra attack power or whatever, right? Pretty standard.
Okay.
This game segregates that into individual weapon types. So, if you have, let's say you draw a card that is a plus attack power, but it's a plus attack power only to creatures that have swords. So if you don't have any active or any in your hand, you're shit out of luck.
Okay.
So that's something else that I absolutely hated about the game. Just the segregation of the some of the buffs. They're not all like that, thankfully, but a majority of them in the starting faction are like that. And you get 3 factions overall, but they're unlocked via the progression in the campaign. And the campaign requires you to tweak the deck a bit to be able to beat some of the rather absurd challenges, because some of them are just it doesn't feel like it's trying to teach you the game. It's just, here you go. Go wild. But because I didn't want to mess with the atrocious deck builder. And let's see, something else that for another thing is just the unlock process in general for some of the cards. So you have your traditional card packs, all right? But then you have cards that are unlocked as you fill out your collection. There's a few like that, and let's use pretty much the baseline for this genre now, or I should say the main genre, the CCG genre, Hearthstone. There's only 1 or 2 that they do like that in Hearthstone, and there's a reason why. It's fucking annoying, particularly when they gate off the really, really powerful cards behind it. So some of the cards that you would build your deck around, you have to get a vast majority of that faction already. And it's just a grind. I mean, more so than the usual CCG. It's just...
Right.
I'm really putting you off on this, huh?
Wasn't the first...
The first one
Hero
was pretty
Academy...
much dropped really quickly, wasn't it?
Yeah, I played it a bit on a long time ago when I had an iPad, because the first Hero Academy came out in what? 2012, 2013,
I mean,
guess?
well, let's put it this way. It has Team Fortress 2 characters on Steam.
Yeah, and the first Hero Academy was pretty good, but it didn't have the weird, well, not the weird, the card system, and it wasn't convoluted. It was just a simple turn-based strategy game that had the equivalent of play by email or whatever, asynchronous.
This is
play.
essentially that with a rather shitty CCG on it. Granted, I never ever got to play the original Hero Academy. I kept balking at it because by the time that I really paid attention to it, once the player base was probably gone.
This looks literally exactly like Hero Academy, except with a CCG, or the CCG elements. Because you had like a little card deck that you built, and that was how you played your creatures and items down.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a CCG thing. It's just that's the way they sort of handled the randomizing your inventory items and your draw.
CCG now. I mean, right down to card packs. Several different flavors of card packs, I might add. There's one for each faction, but in order to get the ones for the particular factions, care to guess?
You have to pay for them?
Yes, premium fucking currency.
Oh.
And also, if you want to buy more than one card pack and get a decent deal, that's also only premium currency. You can only buy the absolute worst deal with the free currency. They do trickle in the premium currency, but it's built around the idea of a phone game where it's the 4-hour timeout. So basically you would have the notification pop a few times a day.
Yeah.
That's what it is in this. And everything looks horrendously like a mobile game. There's no real hotkeys. Everything is way, 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 way too big and all mouse driven and all click and drag and everything. And it's just, there are some systems in it I like.
Okay.
One other thing. It's kind of a meh thing to me because it's an odd way to handle the mana system. Is that you have a maximum of 10 mana, just like Hearthstone. But you always get 5 mana per turn, and you have a holdover if you save mana. So that really makes it so that games are very, very flip-floppy. Granted, I didn't do a lot of multiplayer, mostly because I was blocked out of most of the decent cards, I think, by not going through the single-player content, and I was starting to hit a little bit of a stone wall because I just didn't want to mess with the deck builder at all. Because I absolutely hated the deck builder. And then also, it was hard to figure out what was going on with the deck builder and just the fact that it hid everything. And it didn't even fucking tell you what type of card or what type of weapon a card would use. And sometimes it's not exactly obvious. I mean, you would look at the card, look at the character on the battlefield, and it's pretty obvious, but the card art doesn't always show that. And but the mana system was interesting, but they also don't have a full mulligan system. Whenever you get your Hearthstone cards, and pretty much any card game in this genre is you discard the ones that you want or don't want, and they put go back into your deck, and you are able to draw new cards. This, none of that. You discard one card per turn, and that's it. No mulligan whatsoever. So if you get a bad hand, you're fucked.
Right. Yeah, you couldn't... Was there a mulligan in the first one?
Yeah, but it also wasn't built around a CCG.
That's true. It wasn't built around a CCG.
So you have a lot of buff cards. You have a lot of building cards, which put down stationary units that does particular things, which has a 5 unit limit. I do like the hero power system, though. Once you're able to unlock the fucking thing.
Okay, hero power is new.
Yeah, each you have a pool of 8 per faction, and you only start off with 2 naturally, and the other 6 are locked, and you have to unlock them by filling out the faction, which it's interesting because that allows a lot of mixing in and creating custom decks. In theory, I mean, to be fair, meta is meta, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a very, very, very bitter pill to swallow at $20, especially with a half-baked CCG on top of a fairly simplistic strategy game.
Yeah, I don't know. You said it was going to be free on release. It's going
to be free on Steam when it finally gets out early access. It's free right now on mobile.
Okay. I might check this out when it's free, but it sounds like a more convoluted, slightly worse version of the original.
Yeah, and they show a lot of screens from the single player, random things, which it doesn't feel like the single player is there to teach you the game at all. Which is irritating because to me that's part of what single players should be, and then expand upon that. Because it took me a while to figure out, okay, why am I not able to use this card? Because the cards don't exactly give you a good idea of what's going on. They don't even tell you what the icons mean. You have to figure that out for your fucking self. Or if they do, I missed it. So it took me a while to figure out, okay, what exactly does this do?
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't impressed in the slightest. But maybe the CCG genre is not for me.
In
theory, I like the CCGs, but they're usually have just atrocious monetization. They feel borderline exploitative with the card packs and how especially with Hearthstone these days. Oh, Hearthstone, where they cycle out the cards. So, okay, you pay $200 or so for the expansion. You get to pay it for a year. And then we're going to rotate it out.
You do it all over.
Yeah. It just blows my mind that people pay that much for Hearthstone. The ones that aren't, already making a lot of money on it from the pro scene, which the fact that there's a pro scene for Hearthstone is also fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I do really enjoy CCGs.
I enjoy watching
but
them.
I thoroughly dislike the business model. So, yeah. And I used to be a lot more, I mean, I think that this transformation has been happening over the course of the episodes that we've had. I used to be very much like, it's free to play, it's fine. And now I'm very much like, well, there's good free to play models and there's shitty ones. And I don't want to play your game.
I made you too cynical.
Actually, not in this case. I mean, you were a contributor, but I think Jim was the biggest one because he's really challenged me to be like, hey, I mean, you can have your own views, but have you really considered what you're saying? And so, like, I've had several conversations with him about it, and then we've had several back and forth, like, because he sent in letters to the show, and we talked about it. So, I mean, you certainly have made me a more cynical person overall. Never said squeak again, I apologize. But, yeah, this one is not entirely you. So I don't know if that's a congratulations or I'm sorry, better luck next time.
Don't worry, I'll keep working at it.
Yeah, whatever
just
works,
crack up another card pack. And pretty much everything else is bog standard for this. You know, you open up card packs. If you get too many of the multiples for a particular card, you could disenchant them for ink this time. And the ink cost is just outrageous. It's actually, I believe it's more than Hearthstone's crafting cost. And the fact that you can't just focus on the individual cards that are, the good ones, because you have to fill out your roster to be able to unlock some of the rather nastier heroes and powers.
Yeah.
It just feels like a huge treadmill, more so than usual for these games. Because I do realize that there is a treadmill, there is that grinding loop, but usually there's some sort of enjoyment in it.
Yeah.
And also it doesn't help that there's no ramp up in the battles because of the way they handle the mana system. That's why I'm a little torn on the mana, on how they're handling mana. You always get 5. And at least the majority of the cards that I was able to look at in the deck builder before I got frustrated with it tend to be at 5 or below. So you start seeing things very quickly. Oh, and also, here's something I absolutely hate. All right. So we're back on the hate train again.
Okay.
Is the movement system. It uses a 2-phase movement system. Yeah, move and attack, all right? Pretty standard for these types of games. With one exception. This game does not have summoning sickness.
Okay.
Whenever you summon something onto the board, instead of having the 2 movement or the 2 action points, which you can move once and then attack once, that's your 2 actions. When you summon something, it immediately has 1 action point, so you can either move it or attack with it. So if you're on the attack, quite often I saw just, something big and stompy come down and attack and immediately kill whatever. And that was, your entire defense. It took a lot of strategy out of it, in my opinion.
I don't believe the first game had that. I believe that you could use an item to summon a creature that could, or, summon something that could attack when you summoned it. But I'm pretty positive that you had to wait.
Yeah, literally every creature, if you summon it next to, or if it's a ranged creature in range of an enemy, it can immediately attack. Essentially, every creature has charge.
Yeah.
Which I disliked. There's a lot of fundamental gameplay issues with this game, in my opinion, that just makes it a non-starter for me.
Yeah, I might be misremembering that, but I'm like 95% sure that was not the case with the first game. I'm positive, because one of the items was it was called a summoning scroll, and it let you summon a creature or one of your units, and then it could immediately take a turn. Otherwise, things had to be summoned and then wait.
Yeah, this immediately has 1 action point to do with it as you please. And as soon as I saw that, I saw huge problems with that. I think the game does have crossplay, so there should be some sort of player base constantly, because mobile has a tendency to be able to accept this bullshit a lot more. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, the first one had crossplay as well.
So when it eventually comes out on or out of early access, there should be a player base left for the PC players. I just don't see a long tail on this for PC alone. That, and also the single player campaigns are, of course, locked behind the premium currency. And if you're getting the game free outside of early access, you're not going to have the currency to be able to buy the extra campaigns that gives you the special card packs that have a guaranteed legendary in them.
Yeah, that's not how the first one worked. The first one, the factions, I think there were 2 that were free, and there was always 1 that was free no matter what, and then the second one varied depending on your platform, and then the rest of them you just purchased. But you could play all of them for the single player challenges, but if you wanted to play them multiplayer, you had to buy them, and I think the factions were $1.99 or $2.99. But, you got everything when you bought them. Their entire pack.
No, in order to do this, you have to go through the single-player campaign. I think the first 3 are going to be free, and they'll add more later. Because there's room in the filters for additional types of units, the different factions.
Yeah.
Which is a huge red flag for me. They're already planning on some huge expansions. But the additional challenge campaigns are the ones that are locked. And they're the ones that give you the special packs that are guaranteed legendary. Maybe it's just me being tired of the CCG model.
No, this sounds like a much worse game than the first one. In, every way.
So it's not just me.
Nope, not just you.
But hey, it has good reviews on Steam, so obviously they're doing something right.
Maybe those people didn't play the first one.
Aren't nearly as cynical as I am.
Yeah, maybe. Or both.
Yeah, we need to get them as bitter and hateful as me. So speaking of me being bitter and hateful, how about something cute and cuddly?
Sweet. Sounds good.
The Big Journey. This is also a mobile port, but I actually kind of like this one. It's a very simplistic physics platformer where you play this cat who really, really likes dumplings. And his favorite dumpling vendor has gone missing, and he's going on a big journey, into the name, to go find said vendor. And it's a pretty simplistic puzzle, physics-based with a little bit of puzzle platforming that I'd say is probably perfect for your kid. It feels a lot like BP's Dreams in tone.
Yeah, he loved that game.
Yeah, this has a lot of feeling like that in its overall tone. And there's some jokes in it that I think you would appreciate as well, because he, one of the first characters that you meet, that as you play through the game, you, on little side tricks, you could meet individual characters, and there's a rabbit who really, really, really likes carrot juice, and he's talking about how it's a GMO free range, DRM free.
That's cute.
And let's see, he meets a bear who absolutely loves honey that's called Pooh.
You see what they did there?
Yeah, it's actually a fairly cute game. Not a lot to talk about it, just because it's a pretty simplistic game, but it's one of those that if you have a kid, it's worth checking out at least, and it's not that expensive. It's in the sub $5 range.
Yeah, I requested for a key for it, but I might just pick it up outright. That's not very expensive.
Well, I guess I should say it's not quite a full platformer. It's one of these games that is gravity based, so you actually tilt the world, and the cat just kind of waddles along and is pulled down by gravity. And that's really all there is to it. And that's why I say that it is a mobile port, but really fits on mobile as well, where the geoscopic controls, you tilt the phone and the rolls to the right or rolls to the left, and you tap to jump. That's I assume the controls are there. And that's what things are here, only I'm using controller triggers to do that. Only real criticism I have is occasionally the game will, after you get past a certain checkpoint, it'll return the cat or return the level to, level. And because I'm not using a phone and I'm using controller inputs, I have to release and replace the trigger, which is a little irritating.
Yeah.
But pretty much standard overall 3-star system to get all the secrets, finish in a certain amount of time, find all the dumplings on the level or a certain amount of the dumplings. I don't think you can kill the cat. I know if you take damage, it loses dumplings. And as you eat more dumplings, you just get fatter and fatter.
That's great.
Yeah, you can see why I like this. Like I said, it's a cute little mobile game. Just after me talking about how I'm cynical and hateful, suggest a cute little mobile port platformer.
It's only $1.99 on the Play Store, so it's not got the full blown mobile tax.
Yeah, there's a little bit, but I imagine that's probably the Steam Direct tax, because I don't see them selling a lot of copies.
Yeah.
But you can see the gifts, and gives you on the store page to see how it plays. It's pretty much just Toad and the cat just rolls along, literally. And every so often it'll meow and purr, and like I said, it's adorable.
Yeah, you're right. It's tilt to move and tap to jump.
Yeah, that's why I figured it was based on the controller inputs on PC. And there's also some sort of screenshot feature that they didn't really tell me what the button was, and I couldn't figure it out. Where you could post images to Catstagram.
Oh my god, Catstagram. I just, I'm scrolling through the images on Google Play, and I see that. Oh, no.
What?
Oh. It'll be fine. I'm just being a grumpy old man at this point. Is that a fidget spinner?
I didn't encounter one in the game.
That's a fidget spinner in the image. I'm out. Fuck this shit. I'm kidding. But that's definitely a fidget spinner.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but then again, I only played about half an hour of it, but I got through about 2 worlds. It's a very short game. That's why I said it's probably more king speed than mine. Let him play with the cat for a while. But this is also one of those that it's... okay, now you're sending me the link to the fidget spinner. I never really paid attention to that. I think I encountered those in the game, but I just didn't register.
Yeah. I mean, I see what they're probably doing with those. Just making like a little puzzle element. They rotate.
Yeah, you land on one and they rotate. If I didn't encounter those, I encountered something that's similar.
Yeah.
But, it's not them just throwing it in. It actually has a puzzle element to it.
Yeah, I'm just being a little over-dramatic.
You over-dramatic? You, the drama queen? Never. But yeah, just a cute little puzzle platformer. So, shall we move along to something that's not as cute?
Indeed.
You just want me to rush along, don't you?
Yeah, I think I've only ever rushed you like one other time.
I can't remember what the other time was.
I can't either.
You probably had to poop or something. So, Dead in Vinland. This is a hybrid RPG management survival game. There's things I like about this and things I absolutely hate. Probably my biggest complaint about it is the story elements in general. Maybe it's just me not enjoying story or heavily story-based strategy roguelike games, because there's a little bit of randomization in this as well. Where if you replay it multiple times, which this game absolutely fucking expects you to, because it doesn't tell you some very, very key things, which I'll get into, you're going through the same series of cutscenes over and over and fucking over, and then suddenly Bill Murray is dropping a toaster in the bathtub.
Man, that sounds like it would be interesting.
But yeah, well, that also is kind of on point as well, but we'll get to that. Where, in order to figure out how to play the game, you have to play the game. It doesn't really hold your hand at all, which I kind of like. But a lot of the initial builds that you have to do really don't make a lot of sense on a survival standpoint. Such as, for example, the first thing that... Well, you have 2 things that you pretty much have to build right away. Alright? Pretty standard. You're started with a shelter, so what would you... And you start with a water source, so what would you expect the first thing you should build to be?
You start with a shelter.
You start with a very basic shelter, and you start with a basic water reservoir that you fill up manually every couple of days to boil off the seawater to make it drinkable. So
I would guess fire.
You're given fire, and you have to keep that going. That's actually part of the gameplay mechanic.
Okay, well, so if you get fire, basic shelter, and access to water, I guess tools for hunting or gathering or
food of some sort, right?
Yeah.
You'd be fucking wrong.
Okay.
Because you're constantly scavenging the ship that you shipwrecked in. You actually have to build a tavern first, or a rest area. Otherwise, people get depressed and commit suicide because they can't talk to each other otherwise to, kind of cheer one another up. Or they just drop dead of exhaustion because there's no real way to allow them to rest outside of just sleeping at night, which doesn't do enough to alleviate the exhaustion. Figure that one out. So I had to restart a couple times just because I was getting people, close to suicide, and I was, it's like, okay, how do I deal with this? And then I started really sitting down and trying to figure out my build order, and I realized the tavern first, really, and also,
apparently so.
You're very limited on your resources, so hunting is actually not an option. You can't even do trap hunting without the forge because you need the forge to make wooden traps. Yeah.
Wait, you need a forge to make wooden traps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that caught me off guard because I was like, okay, I'll build the cooking pot and I'll get the hunting camp and get a better source of food because this game has an interesting mechanic where if you rely on one thing too much, let's say you build the gathering station, the harvesting station, so you're sending a worker out to go gather berries each day. Slowly, it ticks down the amount of berries that are available, so your worker takes more and more exhaustion to get the same amount of berries. But if you take them off that for a few days, it regenerates, alright? Because time works very strangely in this game. Well,
right.
It's like, okay.
I like the idea of that mechanic.
Yeah, I like the idea of it. And it causes you to diversify, but the thing is that it's like, okay, I'll just move over to hunting, get some meat, and cook it. Well, I didn't have enough arrows to go hunting, because that also requires the forge. And I figured that, I would need some sort of arrows or something. But it's like, okay, maybe I could build traps, because they talk about trap hunting in the description of it. And the healing camp the healing tent that I had to make allows me to make bandages there. But the hunting camp doesn't allow me to make traps or allow me to make arrows. I have to go to the forge to do that. It's a very obtuse method. And I brought up the story element. The game has a set series of story elements in it where, event A happens on a certain day. Event B happens on a certain day. But then you could recruit characters to have additional story elements, which could have additional modifiers. Each character has 5 bars to them. There's fatigue, injury, sickness, disease, and mental or depression. If any one of the 5 fills up, that character dead. Any one of the 4 starting family members that you start the game with dies, game fucking over.
Okay.
Well, I brought in random samurai lady I found on the island. Pretty good warrior, pretty good at gathering. And it was raining for several days, which is also a multiplier on certain things, particularly depression, because, sitting in the rain, I guess, makes them all depressed or something. You would think that would, not be for everyone, but So, several days of rain brings up my depression, particularly on Samurai Lady, to about 60-ish%. Then a story event hits where they start asking about her past, and they find out that she had a son that died, that was killed. So that brought her depression up another 25. Then the rain for the 3rd or so day hits. She has 100% and commits fucking suicide. And there was no way to avoid that, because that's a set story mission or a story event. And the only way to avoid that was to go far back enough that I could build the tavern to try to get her depression down. But that was before I even fucking met her, because I was having to try to redo my food situation. So you could see how I was starting to get irritated with the game not being very clear on some things.
Right.
And also, combat is annoying. I wasn't able to show this in the Sunday sampler because combat happens randomly. You send out someone on exhibition, and you eventually cause combat, or a set event happens that causes combat. Well, I wasn't able to show it, but one of the more irritating things about it, for one, characters start. This is a JRPG style combat. 2 rows, melee and ranged rows, or unless there's 2 melee or melees in each row, then they're both considered melee for some reason. Characters start in a random row. You cannot set where they start. So if you bring in 2 characters with shields that could actually tank some damage, because the game does a split health bar system. You could actually see that on one of the screenshots, I believe, where it has the red pips and the white pips. Actually, for some reason, all the characters have white pips, but they don't at least in the beginning. Only characters with shields have them.
Okay.
If a character takes red damage, they take injury damage. And the more injured they were in combat, the more injury it causes outside of combat. Well, if you get a very bad roll on combat, where, let's say, you bring in the archer, the teenage stereotypical sulky teenage girl, because, that was in Viking times, right?
Absolutely.
You bring her into combat, and she doesn't have the white pips, alright? She randomly gets put in the front row, while all the shield people that could absorb damage and protect her gets randomly put in the back row. Well, all the enemies single her out, kill her before you even have a chance to act. Then you add, let's say, 50-60% of injury percentage to her. Oh, and you take a negative trait on her because of the injuries that you have to spend another better part of a week trying to get rid of. But, of course, I'm not talking from experience here. Oh, wait, I am. Ugh. Like I said, there's things I like about this game, but it's just overshadowed by some fucking bonehead things. And also, it starts to get a little tedious after a while, particularly once you start filling out your settlement, because you start with 4, which is all right to juggle. It's the Sims problem, where there's so much movement each day on the stats, particularly because of how the harvesting works. So your harvesters have to be watched very carefully. So you're ending up spending more and more time micromanaging them and not really progressing the story, which the big bad completely disappears after 5 minutes. And I'm assuming that you'll probably beat him at the very end to kill him, and that's about it. Oh, and there's also a tribute system where every week in game you have to have a certain thing for the big bad to give him. And if you miss too many of those, it's game over. And I took a look at the cheat sheet for those, and some of them, if you didn't know they were coming ahead of time, are impossible. For example, one of them is a certain amount of smoked meat, like 10 or 20 of them. Well, the smoker takes time to build to begin with, or the drying rack, I should say. It's dried meat, not smoked meat. Well, the dried meat takes a certain amount of time. You can only dry 5 at a time, alright? It takes several days to dry. There's a chance that animals will steal the meat while it's drying. There's a chance it'll rot, and if it's raining, even a higher chance that it'll rot or just not dry at all. So, it becomes, if you knew about it, you can prepare for it. If not, fuck you.
Right.
It is, it's 30 dried meat. And like I said, the dryer could only do 5 at a time, and you're given a week's notice. And you can only have 1 dryer. I mean, hell, some of the other ones are damn annoying as well. For example, they require often perishable things. And there's a system in the game where overnight, a certain amount of food has a chance to rot. Which is, realistic, but the fact that the tribute requires it is irritating.
This is like, shit, what is it?
Well, there's the other game in this series, Dead in Bermuda, which is exactly like this, only Viking themed.
Yeah, no, there's another game I'm thinking of that or trying to think of that I'm drawing a blank on. It's a visual novel style game, and you're like a princess or a queen, and you go to school every day, and
Long Live the Queen.
It's like events. Long Live the Queen, yeah. And events happen, and until they happen, and you realize like, oh shit, I need to have this to be able to prepare for it.
Yeah, this is like a more tedious version of that, only with a survival aspect tacked onto it, which could swing wildly depending on just your sheer luck. Like I said, there's certain things that I liked about the game, but it's just overshadowed by some of the more tedious nature or some of the more annoying natures.
Yeah.
Granted, they are actively rebalancing it, so maybe they'll make it so that it'll be less fucking irritating. But it's trying to released in the state. And it was in early access for quite a while, from what I could gather. Because when I went to the store page, there was a lot of people talking about the beta versions. But yeah. And probably something else that's a little off about the combat. I just thought of that I mentioned in the Sunday Sampler. It's just the sheer numbers. Now, I'm not someone that needs to have damage numbers rank in the billions to be able to feel powerful, right? But all the characters have very, very low stats in general. Outside of their character stats. Health is under 20 for pretty much everyone. As a matter of fact, the character that's presented to you as fucking unbeatable in a forced lose situation in the story pretty quickly has 20 health. All right, so that should give you an idea stat wise of where we're at, right?
Right. Okay.
With damage numbers typically being 1 to about 5, with crits usually being either 1.5 or 2 times multiplier. All right. Well, there's characters that you start running into that have a damage resistance buff that they give to themselves, and others that are -1s and -2s. Do you see where the problem with this is?
Can you wind up in the negatives on your stats?
You could end up where you hit someone but do no damage whatsoever.
All right.
Thankfully, you're not healing them by bashing them with the shield, but you bash someone, you see the damage, the damage screen pop up, and it's like, 0 damage. Fuck, and the buffer just buffed everyone again. So it's basically, hoping for crits. Yeah, like I said, a lot of things I find irritating, but things I like about it. I do like the overall mechanics, outside of just how wildly things could swing because of just chance and a story element popping up without any warning. Particularly with Samurai Lady. I mean, that was bullshit. She ended that day with about 50% depression, which was fine. It wasn't even showing, it was in the yellow. It was considered a warning, but not, danger levels. She was in the 50-somethings, and then that happened. I mean, I'm calling bullshit on that one. And just the fact that, rain could screw you over, and there's nothing you can do about it. So did I put you off from the game?
No. Although I don't feel like it's worth $20 based on what you've described, but I'm not put off by it. I'd try it out. I mean, if someone gave it to me for free, I'd play it, and then I'd buy it for, my usual impulse buy price, $5 to $10. But I don't want to pay $20 for this, because it sounds like it's got a lot of good and interesting ideas and concepts, but also a lot of weird, arbitrary bullshit. Yeah,
they have a thing going on with character relationships, where as characters work together, they'll slowly build up a relationship and be able to help one another out outside of just general stuff. Like at one point, the father-daughter built up their relationship enough just through story missions and stuff that they were starting to help one another. She took an injury in combat, and he said, "Oh, that looks pretty bad. Here, let me take care of that for you," and healed some of her injury outside of an action. And I thought that was nice. And but that also swings wildly just based on story. It just feels like a lot of what I do, or what I did, was completely arbitrary, and everything was based on the random events, and that was it. It was basically, make sure nobody is starving, and that's about it. And just watch how things unfold.
Right. Okay. Cool. My turn. So, I've got... we're gonna do the sandwich method, where you talk about some mostly good stuff, and then some mostly shitty stuff, and then some mostly good stuff. So first up on my list is Starship Corporation. Starship Corporation released into early access in early 2016, at which point I purchased it on impulse, because I really liked the idea and the look of the game, which the idea is that you are the CEO and apparently like chief architect for a Starship Corporation, and you receive orders for ships that need to meet certain specifications, and you go into a blueprint designer mode and you build a ship that meets that specification, and you can go above and beyond if you so choose, or you can try and cut corners everywhere possible to make as much money. Then after you put your ship together, you have to run it through trials. So they're just like, they're simulations, but it's a video game. So you get to see the ship that you've used and you control it and you run it through these trials, or you can just run them automatically. And if you control the ship, it's sort of FTL, but on steroids, managing each of the crew members, and you can pause it to issue orders and things like that, and manage your different systems, engines, weapons, if the design calls for it, emergency vehicles, and things like that. And you can really get out in the weeds when designing your starship. And you do have to take lots of things into consideration. Like you have to have enough lifeboats or escape pods, and you have to have enough food storage and a galley for your crew to go eat, and water storage and purification and air scrubbers and so on and so forth. Originally, you had to run all of these systems like lines and pipes for everything, but due to performance issues, they cut that bit out. So
I actually like that.
So I did too, but they said it was temporary until they get some other performance stuff worked out, which I'll get to that in a minute, because oh my gosh, I've posted a couple of tweets
I've actually
about
played this game back in its pre-early access alpha days when it was on Desura.
Yeah, so now they have like a compartment system, and you have to build general like piping or access points for power and water and etc. And you run those through your ship, and a compartment will be completely covered if you either have direct storage or generation of whatever it is that you need: power, fuel, water, air, etc. If it's there, or if you run one of these pipes to it, and it just is like, okay, you're covering this area of your ship with whatever you need. So that does simplify the process a little bit, and it does certainly help with the performance issues. But I do like the idea of having to really get down in the weeds and be like, well, I need some conduit through here, which means I can't have this room because it'll be unpowered and everyone will freeze to death. But you also have to design corridors and living quarters and crew quarters and recreational areas and a bridge and so on and so on. Like, you really get down in the weeds with how you design this ship. And there's quite a number of hulls. I haven't unlocked all of them. I believe they say that there's like 30 something hulls, and currently I have like 22 unlocked in my main game that I'm playing. And so, like, as a company, you research new technology, and there's some stuff that you can see, and you can just like outright purchase whatever the base plans are for
like
things.
The rights
but you also
the manufacturer rights.
Yeah, but then you also can research your own stuff, which unlocks the later designs. And you start out with small craft that only have one deck or two decks. And they start getting bigger and bigger, and eventually you can get to massive, multi-kilometer long, multi-deck capital ships, or industrial type ships, or mining ships. And there's a bunch of different ways to do the actual business portion. You can just fulfill contracts if you like, but there is a galaxy map, and you can build your own ships and take jobs and then send your ships to perform those jobs. Things like clearing out trade lanes, salvage and rescue ops. You can focus more on the military side if you want to be.
They didn't have that in the alpha.
Yeah, that's more recent, in like the last 6 or 8 months, based on just going back and looking through the devlog. But anyways, if you want to focus more on the military side, you can accept policing contracts to patrol sectors of space, or supposedly you can actually fight wars. I haven't really delved too much into the combat side of the game because, of course, I build mining ships.
Of course.
And I have scout ships and mining ships, and I'll send scout ships out with like really big scanners and transmitters so that they can collect data and send it back.
It's a scanner with an engine attached to it.
Pretty much. And then I send out the big mining ships, and I've got one it's got 3 levels, and it can store 20,000 tons of raw, unrefined ore. Now, and I go get that and bring it back.
Quick question for you. Does the ship glitch out and cause it to just store all the ore in the middle of it, middle of the hull?
No, it hasn't yet, but I suppose that could be a possibility. There's some
okay, so not like Space Engineers.
No. Not at this point, no. But so that's all fun and interesting and great. There's a whole galaxy to explore, systems you unlock, and you can build space docks in each of them. There's a political system. It seems pretty bare bones. Basically, politicians will come to your corporation and be like, hey, if you support my campaign, I'll give you benefits. Which on the one hand is like, yeah, and on the other hand, I'm like, fucking corrupt politicians. But let's not get into politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simulator.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't pretend that doesn't happen, right?
No, but you can do things like that. You can, like I said, you can just go randomly explore and find salvage or asteroids to mine and stuff like that. So it's all fairly, like, the control interface is all fairly simple. I think I'm worried I'm making it sound a lot more complex than it is. I mean, there is some complexity to it, and the ultimate goal is to be a profitable company.
I would say it's purely puzzle game in some aspects of it.
The ship design can certainly feel that way. It depends on what you're doing. If I'm designing my own ship and I have a goal in mind, it's less puzzle and more... well, I guess you could say that's puzzle too. Like, just making my ship as efficient as possible.
Well, there was really no custom ships back when I played it in the alpha. Let's all have a particular goal in mind. So,
yeah,
and things like I think one of the last alphas I played, he was starting to put in the weapon systems. So you had weapon systems, you had hull armor that you could put on the ship to protect certain aspects of it. Shield generators, which create a small bubble.
Yeah. That.
Now, I think of this as a one-man dev team.
It definitely was at the start. I don't know if he has anyone else doing like art assets or anything for him now, but there's the 1.0 release is coming in 2 weeks, I believe. It's pretty early in May. It might actually be next week, like late next week. They're supposed to be introducing a
May
campaign,
3rd.
Which is next Thursday or Friday. Yeah, they're going to introduce a full story campaign. Right now, if you start just like a free game or sandbox mode, you get to choose from some options that seem to indicate there's going to be a larger overall story. Like, whenever you're customizing the difficulty of your game, it's like, how was the state of your company? And it can be like, well, our company was devastated in the secession war, and we almost went bankrupt, and we pulled through by the skin of our teeth. And you start with like no money and really shitty credit, and you have to build from there. Or you can be like, we were awesome and we were unaffected by the war, and you start with shitloads of money, and great credit. And then you can choose like a victory condition, which it's like research all of the tech, or amass like a certain amount of money. And there's one that's like, I believe it's called Monopoly or something like that, and you have to have a shipyard in every single system in the game.
And a monocle and a top hat.
Yeah. But there's a couple of other little options like that allow you to customize your difficulty, and it's got like story reasons for it. And then like the ships that you begin the game with have got like whenever you go click on them, they've got in their description some brief history of like stuff related to a war, and like one of them is a refitted combat vessel and stuff like that. So it seems like there's like inklings of the story sprinkled throughout.
There's some
but
definite
I do like
backstory
that
going on.
Yeah, I do like that, and I hope that expands. But damn, this game is not ready for a 1.0 release unless the 1.0 release is like magically fixes all the bugs. This game feels very KSP in its alpha and beta days to me.
Well, to be fair, beta was hardly a thing for KSP. It was one patch, and they didn't patch the beta. It was they said, okay, beta, okay, release. But to be fair, RimWorld's also doing that, but RimWorld feels a hell of a lot more stable.
Yeah, this game is very unstable. So launching it from Steam, and it also has really shitty performance. It's definitely got a memory leak issue. That is what ultimately causes it to crash most of the time. That's what most of the errors that it gives you, and like you can go look at the errors on their forum page and what they mean. 95% of the time it crashes because of a memory leak. Within, I don't know, an hour of play, like whenever you start playing, you can usually get about an hour, and you should set the autosave timer to be frequent, and you should also save frequently, because this game is buggy and crashy as hell. But it usually crashes within an hour from the memory leak, and then the other times it will just crash. You'll be doing something, and you'll go to click on something, and you'll get an error, and it'll be like error code, whatever, and you hit close, and the game crashes. And then you have to wait, because it's very poorly optimized. It takes something like 3 or 4 minutes to load off of my SSD. So you hit start, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you get a drink, you come back, you see if the game's crashed whenever you load into it. Half the time, whenever you load the game, instead of it just being the main menu text, it'll be text, font, size, parentheses, and then it'll have the main menu text, and that's for everything in the game, which makes it unplayable because then you can't read anything on all the tiny menus. And then sometimes whenever you go to do something, like this one bit me in the ass the first time, because the first time it happened, I went to build my own ship. So not for a contract, I'm not shipping it off to somebody to do their own thing. It's for me. This is the first time I went to build a mining vessel. I spent, going through all the crashes, spent all the time to design this ship, and then I built it, and instead of it being the ship that I built, and it still cost me it's million, what is 500,000 million?
Yes.
Is that whatever that works out, because it's million credits or million space bucks. And it was 500,000 million space bucks is what my mining ship cost me. But it spit out the very basic starter shuttle that costs nothing. And I was like, what the fuck? No, this is not what I wanted. But I didn't have a save at the proper time, so I had to go back and redo it. And it's a 50-50 chance that you're going to get the ship that you built or the starter ship. And I don't know why that is or what that is. And in many other games, I would just be no, I'm not putting up with this crap. This is garbage. I'm never going to play it again.
But it's the KSP thing.
But it's the KSP thing. This game, I love this concept so much. And when it's working and you're not dealing with bugs and it's not crashing, for me, it's brilliant, because it's oh, I've got this Starship hull. I got this new hull. What can I do with this? I want to build a mining ship. I want to build a massive transport ship. I want to build a space tug. As boring as that might sound, it's really interesting and it's exciting, and the concept is really well executed from a gameplay perspective. It's weird, because usually it's the gameplay is it's oh, this is a good idea, and it's executed poorly. But the idea is executed perfectly. Just on the technical side, the game is broken. But it gives me that same KSP feeling. And so I keep... I played it for a long time this weekend.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a good general topic question at some point. Games that are fundamentally broken or technically bad on a technical aspect, but you still suffer through them because you like things that they do.
Yeah, I made that tweet early Friday, I think, or maybe it was Saturday, about the game being why do you keep crashing? I just want to design ships. And they responded to me, and they were like, "Oh, we're so sorry you're experiencing this issue. We're releasing into 1.0 on May 3rd, and we're going to have a lot of bug fixes, and hopefully it fixes it for you." My response was, hopefully. I hope so. I really like this game when it works. So, I mean, they're trying. Yeah, it's got a lot of other weird quirks and issues, too, and I would be here forever trying to think of them, going through them. But, like, the idea and the concept and the execution of that idea are there. Just fix the game so it doesn't crash so often.
Can't hear you launching out of early access.
So, yeah. And I do like that idea, like games that you suffer through because you love them. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Yeah. So good. And I eventually I want to start doing the testing phase by myself, but I just always auto run those because that's a whole nother aspect of the game that is extremely complicated that I don't want to deal with because every click could result in a crash. And when that's running, the memory leak is noticeably worse. Like you'll start noticing huge, just like your frame rate starts dying and you're like, oh no, it's about to crash. I'm at 5 FPS.
Quick, save.
So, yeah, that's Starship Corporation.
Yeah. Before you move on, I had a message from Katie saying to check your phone.
Yep. I got her text message. For some reason, her text didn't come through, and then suddenly I got like 5 texts at the same time.
Yeah, that's what happened to me with you earlier tonight.
Yeah.
I just noticed it a little bit ago, and you were on a roll.
Thanks. So anyways, next is my real bad game. Psychiatrist Simulator. This game looks terrible. Like, you look at this game and you're like, this is gonna be bad. But it's called Psychiatrist Simulator. Like, I had to. Like, I wouldn't have never bought this.
Well, you always wanted to be a psychiatrist, right?
I never wanted to be a psychiatrist. I didn't want to have to go to med school. Because you have to do 4 years at med school to become a psychiatrist because you have to go through all of the drug training. If you're just going to be any other type of therapist, I'm not sure about social workers, but if you're just going to be a therapist, no matter which branch you go down, you take like 2 courses about it, and then you're done. And then you just have to take a refresher every so often as part of your continuing education units that you have to get to meet the licensure requirements in your state. And that varies state by state. So yeah, there's your psychology lesson for the day. Psych 101 over here. But anyways, yeah, I had to. And like, this game is 99 cents on Steam. Don't spend it. Spend your dollar on like a McChicken at McDonald's. It'll be much better. It's more valuable to you as a person to go buy a McChicken from McDonald's to buy this. I got it from Keymailer for free, and I want my money back. This game does one thing really, really well. And it's the only thing it does really, really well. But whoever put this game together is either in the mental health field, or they know someone or work closely with someone in some capacity who is. Because they have got all of their information and their diagnoses and their medications and their, like, all of that. All of the technical stuff when it comes to the therapeutic side and the medication side of this game are spot on. I was really impressed when I loaded up the really garbage Unity asset, didn't give a shit office space that you have that you can like go through and check stuff out and find the pocket edition of, I forget what the European manual is called, but the European version of what we have here in the States, which is called the DSM, the diagnostic manual that we have. The pocket version of that is in the game, which I'm pretty sure is illegal because that document is copyrighted and they definitely didn't pay any licensing fees to use it.
I wouldn't even thought about that. I would have figured it would have been some sort of copyright-free version of it or an older version of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure on it might be an older version of the European manual, because I'm not European. I'm not familiar
or just
with
how
that.
the European handles it,
Yeah. But all of that stuff is spot on, and I spent a little bit of time looking through that, and I was thoroughly impressed. The rest of the game is terrible and mostly broken. So how this game plays out is that you have clients that you see, and you've got a scheduler, and you schedule clients to come in, and you see them, and you have dialogue interactions with them where they tell you about their problems, and you can respond to them, asking probing questions or making statements. Some of the statements seem more therapeutic in nature. Some of them are like things you would never say, like, "Oh yes, you are a terrible person," or "No, you're a moron. Why are you thinking these things?" Or "The voices are all in your head. Just cover your ears," and you won't, like, shit like that you would never say. And the dialogue is read. Your dialogue is read by a text-to-speech program.
Oh, dear God.
So that's
Microsoft
terrible.
Bob?
It pronounces half of everything wrong, and it sounds terrible. And then the clients that you see, some of them are okay. Like, the models look okay, and it looked like they used a proper lip syncing program for the voiceover. And some of them have decent voiceover. And then some of them, which none of these are pictured on the Steam page, of course, but some of them are very clearly, like, badly out of proportion photoshopped pictures that came from, Google Images. Or I'm pretty sure, honestly, that some of the models in this game, they took a screenshot of the Sims character creator.
Yeah, that's what some of those looked like on Keymailer. That's part of the reason why I didn't go for it, because I thought, even I have standards on what I'll put in review code for.
Yeah, but yeah, some of them seem like they just took screenshots of the Sims character creator and then used some sort of lip syncing program to make the face move. They look terrible. And they have like one guy who has either done some voice acting work or is just like a natural, or maybe actually has suffered from mental health issues, because like this one guy who very clearly voices two different characters.
That one guy
is decent, has decent voice acting. All the rest of them are terrible. Like, several of them sound like, 'cause this game was made by a Russian, an air quotes, developer. And some of these people sound like they were handed a script and they don't speak any English at all. So they were just told to read the script.
So like a phonetic script, most likely.
Yeah.
And then some is it in English or in English?
In English.
All right. So basically, Google Translate. Then they used a phonetic script to have the actors sound it out.
Yeah. Yep. And it's terrible. The audio quality from each of them, too, varies wildly. Some of them, even the ones that, very clearly were given phonetic scripts to read, sounds like they actually had, like, real microphones. And some of them were like, hey, I've got this really shitty tape recorder from, the 70s. Let's record you on this.
I have you
and it's all
know
scratchy.
That in Russia, that's state of the fucking art.
Like, I don't even know why I'm still talking about this game. It's terrible. It's a waste of your time, a waste of your money. The only reason that I requested it on Keymailer and got a key for it was because I had to. Yeah. I had to.
I mean, I saw it and I thought about, it's like, hey, you should check this out. And I thought, no, I didn't want to waste your time because Battletech.
Yeah. And that brings me to my last game, which is a mobile game. And in one of the co-optionals from the last couple of months, Total Biscuit brought this game up. And it is called Galactic Frontline. It is a mobile game that is a game first and a mobile second.
Wait, those exist?
If that makes sense. This game has got legitimate voiceover, legitimate actual animated cutscenes. a real story, 3 separate single-player campaigns. There might be a 4th one. I'm not sure because there are 4 factions that are playable in multiplayer. And there might be a 4th campaign, like one of you beat all the other campaigns and you unlock the 4th one. It has really good, well-balanced gameplay. There's none of this mobile difficulty curve bullshit, at least not yet. And I've played it a lot. I'm more than halfway through the first campaign, and it's taken me like 3 or 4 hours to get there.
How about that? You found a unicorn.
Yeah.
Granted, I found a unicorn, but it was in the grocery store.
Yeah, and we found them both last week. But yeah, I mean, this is it is a mobile game. It certainly plays like a mobile game. You know, tap and drag. It's sort of a tug-of-war type strategy game. You build up your small fleet. You have your main ship, and then up to 4 escort ships as you upgrade stuff along the way. I've got 2 escort ships right now. And then you have combat units that fill up hangar slots on your ship, and you have an energy level that builds up, and you start with 3, and it gradually increases both the number of energy that you have at one time and the speed with which you get this energy. And the energy you can spend to use abilities from your main ship and your different escort ships, or deploy your units from the hangar. And there are a lot of different ones, and you unlock them by playing as the different factions. You can get, like, I don't know, tokens or cards or whatever you want to call them by playing the multiplayer. Yeah, sorry. By playing the multiplayer, and you can just unlock them out of order. But if you play the campaign, you unlock all of them as the natural story of the campaign progresses. So it's a really good game, a really good strategy game. Especially, like, it's on mobile. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So you deploy, like, your ships as well. Like, you deploy them, and then they automatically will deploy units from then on until you change them or tell it to stop. And you have a unit cap of 60. I've never hit the unit cap.
At least not with that attitude.
But, there's different pros and cons to each ship. All of the designs are really good. It's very reminiscent of Homeworld, or it feels very Homeworld inspired. But one of the factions looks like it's inspired by Battlestar Galactica, the Cylons a bit. There's some hints of Halo in there. They're all original designs. Like, nothing, as far as I can tell, is just like a straight up copy of something, but you can see the influences in different designs. It's an excellent game. It does have, mobile trappings in it as well, but it goes the route of, we want to keep you invested so that you will eventually spend money, so we're going to give you tons of free stuff. As long as you log in once during the week, you can collect all of the 7-day weekly rewards.
Huh.
So you don't have to log in every day, because I missed a couple of days, and then I came back and I was like, I guess I'll have to start over. But it was like, nope, you can just get the previous days as long as you log in. So if you log in, I don't remember what the reset day is. It's Saturday or Sunday, but if you log in the day before that, you can collect all 7 days worth of login rewards. Plus, it gives you tons of, complete this campaign mission. Here's a reward you can unlock for hitting the next level. There's challenge missions, which let you try out all of the different ships and faction stuff, and then they reward you with upgrade points for it. It gives you shitloads of the premium currency, like tons of it, and everything so far that costs premium currency, everything is like 10 premium currency. That's it for everything that I've encountered so far. And I've gotten 1,100 or 1,200 of the premium currency. And if you want to buy something with real money, you can just buy whatever you want with real money. I mean, there's packs. You can get, like, the starter pack for $5, and it gives you bunches of stuff or whatever. But it's a very fair mobile economy, or a very fair mobile business model. and it wants you to come back and be invested by giving you tons of stuff and a huge single-player campaign to play. It's intense.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that thing exists.
Yeah. And it's made by NetEase. Remember those guys? With the whole being sued by PUBG deal? It's made by them.
Oh.
Not everything is voice acted. But all of the cutscenes are voice acted.
Well, you better hurry and get some time and Knives Out before it goes away.
Nah, I'm good. That can go away for all I care.
You mean Knives Out or the Battle Royale craze in general?
I don't really care.
I
don't begrudge people the games that they like. It's just I don't care about it.
It's just I've seen this happen before, and it seems like the Battle Royale rush is very similar, and actually in fast forward to the MMO rush, where everything was paid in subscription, and now everything's quickly going free to play because they can't sustain it outside of the one that can.
Yeah. But no, this is a really good game that happens to be on a mobile device. Or mobile devices, I should say. So if you like strategy games, if you like sci-fi stuff, it's worth checking out. I really think it's worth checking out. I mean, I'm still playing it. I've been playing it for 2 weeks now.
Wow, that's actually a lot longer than most of the games I play.
Yep. Especially mobile games.
Yeah, that's always been my big hang-up is, okay, well, this is, sub $5, but my average, amount of time I play these fucking things are, sub-day overall.
Yeah. Yep. But nope, I've been playing it for 2 weeks, and I intend to keep playing it. The biggest thing is it doesn't demand that you come play it every day. That's one of the things I like so much about it.
It's doesn't like you show up. A job?
No, you show up and it's like, oh, hey, you played this week. We're on day 5. Here's all of the rewards up to day 5. If you come back tomorrow, you can get some more, but you don't have to. It's fine.
Yeah, but that's fine if you don't want to. Yeah, we understand. Peace out, yo.
Yeah. Oh, and there's no timers. There's no timers that make you wait for shit.
Energy bars?
The only thing... Nope, no energy bars. The only thing that there's a timer on...
Are you sure this is a mobile game? Are you sure you didn't, dream this,
No, the only thing that there's a timer on, and it makes sense, is whenever you jump to a new system, there's like a time for like you're in transit, but it's not that long. And then whenever you research something, and everything that you research, 60 minutes. Everything, no matter how high or how low the level is 60 minutes. But I get that researching things take time. That doesn't bother me. But no, there's no energy bars. You can try something as many times as you want. You can play for as long as you want. Or you can just play for like the 5 minutes that it takes to do a mission.
So I guess we're going to call this the Unicorn game.
Yeah. Best mobile game 2018.
So far. So I guess
something's going to have to beat a pretty high bar. Yeah, that wraps us up for this.
Yeah, so before we go on our adventure, I think it's a short elevator ride.
Well, it is now time for our monthly game club, the April game club this month. For anyone who does not know, perhaps you're new to the show or somehow you managed to miss all of our previous game club episodes before, Rage and I tend to have very different tastes in video games.
Usually.
And game club allows us to intentionally play the same game at the same time and then talk about it at the same time and see how we feel about it.
Yeah, occasionally pushing us outside of our comfort zones and trying something different.
Indeed, and for this month's game club, we played 80 Days. 80 Days is a steampunk story-based choose-your-own adventure.
Yeah, I would say, choose-your-own adventure is probably a fair way to call it. I would actually throw a little bit of roguelite into it, just because of the random aspect of it.
Yeah, this game originally released in either 2014 or 2015 on mobile devices, and it later came to Steam. I played it on mobile. I have it on mobile. It was a long time ago. It was one of the Amazon Prime, like, free apps that you could get. And you played it on PC.
Yeah.
So before we really dive into it, I want to figure out if there were any differences between the mobile version and the PC version.
I think there are slight differences in some of the routes, because I was looking more into that. There's slight differences in routes. Not much, but a little bit. Or at least that's what some of the guides suggest. But other than that, it's about it.
Okay. Well, there are different seeds for routes. I believe there's 8 on mobile. I don't know if there's more.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention until really late, but it actually shows you what seed you're on whenever you hit escape. So you can kind of cheese it if you start to notice what seed.
Yeah, there's no way to check that on mobile. There's also, is there like a journal on the PC version? Because you run into and find a lot of stuff, and on mobile the only way to see what you figured out is to go to the map and like tap on each city.
It does give an overall, and once you finish it gives you an overall thing of how you did and showed you around and what day what things happened. So I have let's just talk more about the general platforms. I'm not sure if this really fits the PC platform, because I have to admit that towards the end of a route, it was very, very tiresome. It feels more. So? It feels more like it's built around a pick up and play, do a stage of a route, but PC doesn't really lend itself to that. It's more of a long form aspect, and because each run is at least an hour-ish if you're reading everything. And that's, really rushing. It just feels a bit tiresome to me. Maybe it's just, it just didn't click for me.
This is not a good pick up and play game on mobile.
Oh, it isn't?
I tried playing it, like, straight through, and I tried playing it in bits and pieces. And the problem is that you forget stuff. And like I said, because there's no journal system, there's no good way to review, like, where you've been and what you've done and what you're actively like trying to pursue. If you get like a little goal or a hint that there's something somewhere, it's really difficult to play this game in chunks. To me, it feels very much like a road trip plane type of game.
Yeah, which there's not many of, actually.
No, but somewhere you've got 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
To
1
sit
hour
down
is
and do
rushing.
a whole thing.
I would say 2 is probably the fair, average. I would say it's probably a little bit easier on PC to figure out pick up and play, because if you click on individual cities, it does tell you what you figured out by that city. I'm not sure if that's in the mobile version or not.
Yeah, whenever you tap on a city, you can see what's going on, but sometimes you'll have multiple things in the same city, and it's difficult to like scroll back and forth and figure out, and the whole time like the timer's counting down. And in general, that doesn't matter too much, but every once in a while, you'll miss a transfer if you waste too much time, which could cost you a day or days, depending on what type of route.
To me once. It came up, and I wasn't sure what it was doing, because I tried to do the transfer, and it just kept bringing up the luggage, and it wasn't saying anything. Then I realized that it only allowed one piece of luggage no matter what, but it didn't say it anywhere outside of the embark, which it only said luggage times 1, if I remember correctly. So I actually missed a transfer because of that.
Yeah, well, and sometimes too, whenever you go to do that, you can purchase additional luggage
but not always.
space. But not always, yeah.
And that's what threw me off.
Okay, so now that we've determined that the games, both versions of the games, are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
80 Days is based on Around the World in 80 Days.
Wait. This is based on something?
Yes. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't know Around the World in 80 Days, but,
well, considering, there's magazines out there that are listing classic works as saying, you don't need to read that.
Yeah. But anyways, it's based on Around the World in 80 Days, relatively loosely. But you are the manservant. Valet.
Yeah, please, you're not a simple manservant. You're not some barbarian.
You're the valet to a rich Englishman who has taken a bet that he can go around the world in 80 days or less. And he basically lets you determine everything. Yeah. What route you take and when you're going to withdraw money.
Not always, because we'll get to that.
But you pretty much run the show, and he's just along for the ride. He's trusting you to do everything. There's this interesting dynamic between the two as well that can change pretty dramatically based on what you do.
And so where you are.
Yeah, and where you are.
I just wanted to highlight that this game is one that really requires multiple playthroughs, not just per seed, but also just per route, because there are vastly different, essentially many storylines and many interactions between Phineas Fogg, the gentleman that you are serving, and Pursuit. Is that how you pronounce it? I've never heard...
His name is actually pronounced Passport.
Well, I wasn't sure. It was like...
Yeah.
Okay, is that supposed to be Passport? Because I know Jules Verne, but...
Yeah, no, his name is supposed to be pronounced Passport. It's French, but it pronounces, basically Passport. You can throw a little French influence on there if you want to, but...
Yeah, but I don't want to be that
There's even a joke in there about it, depending, like, if you get to a very, very cordial relationship with Fogg based on, again, things that happens on your adventure, he actually will make a joke about your name being Passport. Mm-hmm. So in one of my playthroughs, I had we basically became friends. Instead of just me being his valet, due to things that happened on our adventures, we became very friendly towards one another. And then my passport got stolen by a girl that I fancied, but she was playing me and she stole my passport. And he makes a joke.
She wanted the other passport.
She did, but he made a joke about, I wonder what would happen if I lost my passport.
Yeah, and there's very, very subtle jokes. The first character you usually run into is Jules Verne.
Yeah.
There's other characters from the books that occasionally pop up, once again, depending on the seed and depending on your location. I'm pretty sure I ran into the love interest from the original book in India, but I didn't have the proper luck or the proper seed to be able to play out that particular route, because there's different endings depending on your overall, first of all, if you made it, and second of all, your overall health of Phineas Fogg, because he can die.
Yes, you can also die.
Yeah.
As I discovered when we both died.
How about that?
Yeah.
Well, I nearly had that happen, but teasers. You have different endings based on that, but also your overall character and your overall relationship with them, which is based through different interactions and how you handle things on the road or in the air, depending on your mode of travel. And I have to say that there is a very diverse modes of transportation in this game, from everything from steampunk airplanes to your typical airships to hover trains. Actually, the Trans-Siberian Railroad is a giant maglift, essentially.
Yep. There's also normal trains. There's a rocket that you can take. Mm-hmm. There's cars, like, very, very early cars, like prototypes. Mm-hmm. But then there's also a carriage that is pulled by a steam horse, like a steam-powered horse. Yeah. There's the walking cities. Did you see those?
Yeah. Those are mostly in India.
Yep.
And also, depending on where you are, it depends on the mode of travel and your overall flavor of the game, because the music changes to the local flavor, and it does that very well. Make you feel like you're in a different part of the world, which I really liked. But here's one of the mode of transportation I know you didn't get: an ice walker.
An Ice Walker?
Yes.
As in like a mech?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that one. And I've played... I have previously played 80 Days. Like I said, I got it as one of the free apps a few years ago.
Well, it's on only one route.
Okay. Yeah, I've played 80 Days probably 6 or 7 times total.
Yeah, I've done 4 through complete playthroughs, and I'm 50-50 on it.
Did you get the submarine?
No.
One of the submarines?
Well, okay. Technically, the train from England to France is a submarine.
Right, but there is an actual submarine which you can mutiny and take over.
And let me guess, Nemo.
No, actually, it wasn't Nemo.
Because they do have, the references in the game. I did try to commit mutiny on the Trans-Pacific route. Because I just had terrible luck twice getting to the western United States. And this goes into a gameplay mechanic. As you're traveling, occasionally you have different options that pop up. You could groom fog, because that's not creepy at all, to increase his health, which is used as one of the currencies to be able to travel. And also some events that having your health up for your master, that also seems wrong somehow, determines if he dies or not. Well, and also you could read the newspaper or chat with your fellow passengers, or occasionally Fog himself. And that also, you could ask about different routes and different possibilities. Well, as I was going through Siberia, everybody seemed fascinated with the United States and was constantly talking about the different routes there. So I had pretty much all the United States mapped out. So it's like, okay, I go to the United States, I could go straight across, no problem. Try Trans-Pacific route from, I think it's Beijing or somewhere in Japan, because a couple of the playthroughs kind of blur together in that area. Because I always seem to end out on that route no matter where the fuck I went.
Mm-hmm.
And was passing Hawaii and a storm hit, and the ship decided, okay, let's go to Hawaii instead. Never mind the fact that it's actually further to go from Hawaii from where they were to the western United States. Because, it's the pebble optic flat, or, travel, so, it's acting like it's on a globe, so it's an arc. Parabolic. So, because it was at that halfway point, but it was so far north, it was actually, I would say, close to, the southern tip of Alaska. Because I left, I think it was Japan, that route. It was just, I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, sometimes stuff like that happens. There's a lot of interesting things that can go on. So on one of my playthroughs, I wound up in South America through, bad luck and poor chances and all that jazz. Like, my route wound up in South America, and I was in the Amazon. And I was in this city, or in this town, where there was nothing, no routes. I was like, I'm going to have to go back. I'm basically going to have to backtrack and try and find another way. But I needed to rest. We were both not doing so hot. Fog wasn't doing so well, so we needed to rest. So I stayed a couple of days there to allow his health to go back up.
Mm-hmm.
And through the random events, I met a group of rebels. And I ingratiated myself with them, and they were like, hey, we're going to bomb this site, and we're going to steal a vehicle, and we're going to head somewhere else in South America, closer to the Atlantic. And I was like,
sounds good.
Shoot. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm not going to have to backtrack. So we stole some dynamite and dynamited a construction site, and then stole a bulldozer and drove through the Amazon rainforest. And then there was a vote. There was a vote on whether or not someone who was drinking all the alcohol should be basically left behind to die in the jungle. And we were the deciding vote to save his life. And then later on, there was an accident, and some people tried to steal our fuel, and the guy whose life I saved, he wound up dying, but he saved us all. And then we got to make the rest of our journey. There's some crazy stuff that can happen. That just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting storytelling experience.
Yeah, granted, frustrating at times, but yeah.
It can be, but it's worth it.
Well, one of my playthroughs, this was actually an unsuccessful one. In Eastern Europe, I was I don't recall the city. Like I said, it all turns into a blur after a while. I had a random event where I went to the Artifactor Guild, which is basically steampunk Jews.
Yes, they are.
I mean, well, they say that only Jewish people could be artifactors, so it's steampunk Jews.
Yeah.
Well, I was poking around one of their temples, one of their places, and while their back was turned, nicked a medallion. All right.
Okay.
And this was also the playthrough that I was able to take the entire Trans-Siberian Railroad. Well, I got to the end of the railroad, and because I just bribed my way in, because I didn't get lucky enough to get an event that allowed me to go in,
which I did.
Yeah, I to arrested and was detained for a few days. Well, it's like, oh shit. Well, I'm really gonna have to rush on this. So, went to the bank, got some money, which didn't take that long, thankfully, and decided to take the direct route from. I was pretty sure it was northern Japan. Directly to San Francisco. And this was also the time that everybody was obsessed with the United States, which is, not exactly unusual. So, I had all the routes planned from San Francisco to New York, and New York pretty much always has a direct connection either to London itself or somewhere in Europe that I could easily take. Perfect. Well, I'm in my overseas route, and the storm hits. And we decide, let's mutiny so that the ship returns to normal. It takes its normal route, because we don't want to go to Hawaii. Because Hawaii sucks. It has palm trees and sunshine, and we hate it. So, I'm trying to build up this mutiny, and I'm able to use the medallion I got ages ago to get the steampunk Jew, the artifactor, to launch this mechanical army against the loyalists of the ship and try to mutiny. Well, unfortunately, I fail, and I end up getting thrown overboard a few miles off Hawaii and have to swim to shore, which cost me about a day.
Damn.
Yeah. And then, because I was counting on getting to San Francisco, I had to take out more money. And it just put me way behind on everything. And there wasn't a direct route to San Francisco from there. I actually had to go to South America and try to cut through there, which is very difficult, as you found out. So on that route, I also had to deal with a revolution there and fight my way through. And eventually, I ended up having to go to Africa, of all places, and work my way back north. So by this point, I was just saying, okay, well, let's see what happens if I, go like 100 days. And Fogg was pissed with me.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to Africa. I've been to every other continent, but I've never made my way back through Africa.
But that's not even the most interesting trip. My most interesting trip is also my shortest. Because...
Yeah, you got done in what, like 50-something days?
No, I beat that.
Okay.
My best time, 48 days.
Damn.
Via the North Pole.
Okay.
So it's essentially going the complete opposite direction that is logical. The logical direction is, France, and then heading west. Or sorry, heading east.
Heading east.
Yeah. Also, before we get to the North Pole expedition, in Africa, I actually met essentially the mirror version of Fogg and Passport. I can't remember their names, but they were talking about going west to east, and he was talking about, but that doesn't make any sense. You'll lose time, which is actually a plot point of the original book. And whenever you cross the international date line, they talk about setting your clock back a day. Otherwise, someone that wasn't as precise as himself would arrive on the 80th day and miss it because he hadn't accounted for time zones, which was exactly what happened in the book almost.
Yeah,
which I like.
I ran into them too, but I ran into them in America.
I ran into them in Africa, so maybe it's just they start there. But this was also day 90 something at this point.
Yeah, I was on day 70.
But getting back to the North Pole.
9.
All right. Well, the North Pole, in order to get it, you have to actually go a very convoluted route, which I actually incidentally discovered. I'm not sure if it does it on mobile, but on PC, occasionally you'll see players going around, doing things. Do you have that?
No.
Ooh.
Where if you do, I've never.
Well, this didn't happen until my third attempt. Well, granted, my second attempt was offline because my internet went. So my third attempt, I noticed players, taking trains and stuff, and then I noticed a walker going from Iceland north. And then I noticed North Pole, and I thought, there's a trip I should take. So on my last attempt, I decided to make a special thing to go there. And it's an interesting trip. It's a slow-ass one because you only... On my trip, I did 48 days with 8 cities. All right?
Okay.
Typically, you're hitting 15 to 20. Well, you go to... essentially to Scandinavia. Then from there to Iceland, and Iceland to the North Pole. And this whole time, Passport is like, shouldn't we be going west? And no, I'm not joking. He's actually asking the entire time, aren't we going the wrong way? Are you intending to go around the Earth, pole to pole? And then finally, Fogg says, sometimes to undo a knot, the best way to do it is to cut it. I intend to go around the pole and technically go around the world.
Nice. I'll have to try that. Do it again and try that.
Oh, do you want me to continue on this, or?
You can if you want.
It's a special route and it has its own story. Literally, going from Iceland to the North Pole is about 15 to 20 days. I left Iceland on day 9 and I didn't hit the North Pole until day 30 something. Okay. And it's a really long and convoluted, and if you choose the wrong thing, I'm pretty sure Fogg is fucked. Because there's an accident. I should say, not an accident, an incident. And Fogg is injured and nearly freezes to death. And there are several times that you have to persuade other characters to help him. And if you hadn't been nice to the other characters in the expedition, you're dead. Or he's dead, I should say.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's I don't think that's the only one of those. Well, you mentioned the rocket. I'm pretty sure that would be one as well.
Yeah, there's a rocket you can take that you can't bring any luggage or anything with you.
At least with that attitude.
But it gets you something like a quarter of the way around the globe in just like a day or two.
Well, we didn't even mention the luggage, why that's special, because there's various items that you could get. For one, you could trade to get extra money, but I gotta be honest, I never really had much luck with that.
No, because all of that's randomized as part of the seed you're on.
Yeah,
sometimes
from everything that you start with to what shows up in the different markets. And certain items are worth a lot more in certain places, but that requires a lot of luck to get there in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally you'll get lucky and you'll have something or you'll get something and you'll make some money off of it, but most of the time you're withdrawing money from the bank to pay for the more expensive routes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's the essentially suits, different sets of items give a set bonus. So, for example, the gentleman's set, which is actually pretty easy to put together, it seems. allows you to renegotiate routes or departure times, sometimes for free.
Yeah, you can also use the other sets to help with that too.
Yeah, it just seemed like the gentleman's set was the easiest one to put together for me.
It is. You can usually get... don't you start with 2 of the 3 pieces for the gentleman's set?
Usually. One time I didn't start with any of it.
Oh, okay. Although, honestly, my favorite thing when renegotiating is it's like, we can renegotiate this, and then like it tells you like just a little like funny blurb and then how much it's going to cost. It's like ungentlemanly behavior. That one's always my favorite. I chuckled at that every time I saw that.
Or just every so often Fog will say something funny in the corner of the screen.
Yeah.
Which, that's the flavor of the game. Because other than that, it's literally just painting over a map and the occasional city screen.
Yeah. But I mean, the flavor and the storytelling is where it all is. And I'm sure, like, you're telling me about things that I didn't find. I'm telling you about things that you didn't find. And both of us played the game for this. I played it 3 times, and you played it 4 times.
Yeah, I've got just under 5 hours in it, and I didn't put any time into this beforehand.
Yeah, and I'm sure both of us didn't find things. So,
definitely.
I mean, this game deserves a few more playthroughs just to get all of the fun flavor texts and the different
I do think
interesting routes and endings.
Probably in general, it's a better pick up and play if you can find a time that is a good stopping point.
Yeah.
Because that was my big thing, is that if... I think I would have preferred the game a lot more if it was slightly shorter per run. Not a lot, but just a little bit. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, if it felt like maybe an hour was not rushing.
Yeah.
Like, I think an hour would be a good start to finish time. I mean, roughly 2 hours isn't terrible.
Yeah, but once you start going to the same areas over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, basically what I did was every day during my kids' nap time and the few days leading up to, well, except for yesterday. So, let's see, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during my kids' nap, I would just go lay down on the couch in my office and pull out my phone, and I'd play an entire game start to finish. And, whenever I finished, however much time was left in nap time, like I didn't start another one, I went and did something else. And the only one that I finished in less than 2 hours was the time when I died. And that was about 90 minutes in. And basically, I was... If there hadn't been the event that I ran into, which was essentially a civil war, which caused our crew to have to go way out of the way, and then they got pissed, and then they mutinied. And like I got shot, and then the airship we were on crashed into the ocean, and we sank to the bottom of the ocean, and we died before we were rescued. So, and if I had more health, if I had like 80 or 85 health,
around the world in 80 health?
Yeah, but we started the journey with like 60 or 65 health, and I was like, oh man, I'm not doing so hot. We're not doing so hot, but you know what? We might make it. Oh no.
Yeah, there was a couple times on the North Pole run that it was under 10. I mean, it was close. But, that adds to the suspense,
Yeah. I've also had a few times where I thought I was going to die. Like, okay, we're done. And then, like, something positive happens. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you were rescued.
Well, outside of set events, you can't die, because I tried.
Oh, okay.
On my 90-plus day, that was me sitting in Africa, sleeping without going to the hotel, just dropping his health to see what happened.
Okay, so you didn't have any money and you were sleeping on the streets?
Oh, no, I had money.
Oh.
I was just forcing him to sleep in the streets regardless, and it didn't kill him. Pissed him off.
I didn't realize that.
It was me experimenting, because I realized I was already going to fail. And maybe that's part of it, is that it feels very binary in its final state, because every time I won, it was by a huge margin. I succeeded in 55 days by hitting really no major derailing events, or really nothing major at all. which I don't know how I managed that. That was my first run. It's like, well, that was easy. My second run, I got it was actually the closest, but it was very clear that I wasn't going to make it. Before I even left America, I wasn't on the Transcontinental Railroad, but I was taking the southern route through Texas, and Jesse James showed up.
Yep, I ran into Jesse
robbed
James.
the train. It was kind of funny because he robbed me, and then he tried to rob Fogg, and Fogg said, "I don't care." No, actually, I said, "He doesn't carry anything. I'm his valet. I carry his things." And then he said, "Well, does that mean I should rob you twice?" Because he tossed me $20 to, so he doesn't leave me completely out of the cold, right? So I got pissed and punched him and got back about half my money, but it was enough to make the trip from the East Coast to either England, Europe, or Africa. So and I wasn't discovering any routes there, so I eventually had to go there via Iceland. And it was very clear before I even left that this is going to take too long. I've lost. And I ended up losing by about 12 hours. And that was several days worth of traveling.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's it. It's just that it's very clear. But if you try to do the twist like the original novel did, that only works once, Yeah.
Yeah,
What would be funny?
I failed once, and it took me like 89 days. And I succeeded once, and it took me something like 78 or 79 days. Like, I cut it pretty close, but we made it. And then I failed once by dying. So I did not hit any of the fast track around the world. And the one where I started off the best, when I went on the Trans-Siberian route, and then I ran into someone from the royal family and could get into Vladivostok without having to bribe my way in, and like I had a free pass through all of that. I was doing great, and then like I just got bogged down in America, and I could not like make my way because the Transcontinental Railroad didn't go all the way across, so I had to go halfway across the United States and then down to Miami and then up to New York and across to London, and I wasted a lot of time in the United States because I took a riverboat down the Mississippi River, and someone made a bet with the boat captain that he could get there to I believe Louisiana.
Yeah, I had that happen.
Like 5 days, but then the engine exploded and it took us like 10 or 12. That was terrible. But still, I enjoyed it. I liked the story all the way.
Yeah, I had one where I was only able to go about halfway down the Trans-Siberian Railroad, and I can't remember if I just didn't have enough money for the entire trip or if an event happened or something. But I hit about the worst city to get it off on. So I couldn't really progress until the Trans-Siberian Railroad ran again and just go another city down because I wasn't able to get a lot of money. And then go from there down to India, then around the Indo-Chinese peninsula there.
Yeah.
Which was actually my first successful route was around that. I went England, France, through Eastern Europe, down through Greece, actually, across the Middle East, across India, picked up the SS Thunder. And the only reason why I remember the name is because I realized that was the same ship I took the first time. From India to China. I was trying to go to Panama City, but that was the one derailment that actually cost me sub 50. Because I ended up having to take a couple days to be able to get a new route there. Across South America up to Northern Africa and then across Europe back to England. Route 2 was across the Trans-Siberian Railroad. I think this was also the one that I had the murder mystery on, actually. Did you encounter that?
No.
Okay,
Didn't get a murder mystery.
Occasionally, whenever you read the newspaper, It talks about a hovercraft leaving Japan to Hawaii. It's supposed to be one of the fastest modes of travel. Well, the steampunk Jew gets murdered on that, and you have to try to figure it out. And I had it right, but I just couldn't prove it. Because you had to have all the evidence. And that ended up costing me time. Granted, they had to let me go because, they had no evidence that I did it either. But, yeah. But, that's another thing that's interesting, you hit all these small little things. You occasionally go boxing. There was one time in... I think this was also in Mexico or in Central America that played poker and ended up... No. This was on the north, going north to the North Pole. Playing poker and was just able to fleece someone by just, since it was early in the trip, just constantly bluffing and make it so that he couldn't bet. And ending up winning several £100. Or maybe that was in Russia and it was another trip. But yeah, it's all sorts of little stories, and that's what really these travel logs are just little stories making up parts of a big one. Yeah. So I do like the game. It's just, it trudges along at times. And sometimes, you're kind of screwed over by the seed and just pure luck. But if you're going into it expecting that, then it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's a fun, interesting game. Or a fun, interesting choose-your-own-adventure. It's great. I love it. And I want to play it a few more times to try and find some more of those little stories. Just take different routes I haven't been on before, which would guarantee new stories. And then, try some different stuff even on the routes that I've been on.
Yeah, I was not able to take the southern routes at all. Going down through South America intentionally. Yeah. And one thing I do love is the ending from the North Pole is, Fogg says, because every time, they say, essentially a variation of, well, let's try it again, win or lose, especially lose though, he tends to be very hard on trying again. And actually the North Pole adventure netted me £13,000 profit from the wager, and I didn't have to get that much money. I actually ended up in Canada on like day 40. So that that's easy to get back from, right? Yeah. But the North Pole ending, I won't spoil the entire thing, but I also got the positive ending, and I'm pretty sure there's a negative one. He says, "Let's try it again, but this time, let's try a more southern route." Or a slightly more southern route.
Yeah. He said that to me before, too, when I failed on a northern route. But then if you fail on a southern route, he might say, let's try a northern route. So sweet. So we both enjoyed it. Both liked it. Yeah. Both recommend it.
Yeah, I would say so. If you're going into it expecting, what you're going to get. Because if you're expecting pure point and click, you're going to be disappointed because of just the pure randomness. And if you're going in expecting more of a roguelike adventure, you may be more forgiving of it. And some things just to me don't work, particularly the trading thing. It's just too random to be able to really make use of. I would have liked to have seen instead had the trading be in areas. So, this item sells for a lot in, the Indian subcontinent, or in China, which China would be a large grouping of cities instead of a particular city. Granted, sometimes the buy and sell are very close together. Like there's one that's San Francisco, Chicago, which should be doable on a single run. Usually, yeah, but usually they're continents away.
Yeah. Alrighty. So we both recommend it. Yeah. It's $10 on Steam regularly. It's $5 on mobile regularly. I feel like this game is easily worth $10.
I'm pretty sure it goes on deep discount though.
Yeah. So, our next game club game.
Yeah, this one is my fault. I suggested this to you when I noticed something. And what was your response?
It was all caps and many exclamation points in the reply of yes. Yes, very much indeed. We are doing the released as of today, like recording day, Battletech. Both of us purchased this game brand new. And have already played it I've played it for about 2 hours already today, and you played it for what, double that maybe?
Let me go see if I can get my stats, because if I go to my Steam page, Firefox just goes, wow. I have just under 6.
Okay.
But also, I was doing a lot of random missions trying to build up my company. But Battletech is a squad strategy merc simulation game.
Yeah, we've talked about it in the last couple of episodes, but it's from the Battletech tabletop game. This is a turn-based strategy game where you build your big stompy mechs and manage your mercenary company. And oh boy, I'm just going to stop talking because I want to go play it, and we're already running over what I thought we were going to record tonight.
Well, excuse me.
Oh, this game is so good. So good.
So far.
Man. So far, so good. But yeah, we're doing Battletech for May's Game Club. I
thought you would go for my idea when I noticed the things lining up. But I didn't realize you'd be this enthusiastic.
Oh yeah. I've been waiting for this game for a while. A game like this for a while. I've talked multiple times about my experience with the Mech Warrior franchise and the Mech Commander franchise and Battletech in general.
And the only reason why this wasn't on your when to play game list was that I was able to snipe it because I went first.
Yeah. So, we're doing Battletech, guys, and I'm very happy about that. I totally understand if no one wants to buy Battletech brand new, but I will say that it's worth it if you like
squad strategy.
Yeah, if you like squad strategy,
so far it's worth it. That's the thing I want.
That's
the thing I want to preference is that so far we've barely scratched the surface on it.
It's totally worth it. Buy it. You should buy it. It's worth it. Game of the year. My game of the year right here. I'm calling it. Nothing else better is going to come out this year than Battletech. And then we'll see if I have to eat those words come December.
I'm not sure if that makes me happy or not.
Although, honestly, if something comes out that's better than Battletech, bring it on. I want good games.
Sorry, Sony exclusive. Game of the year, the Sony, God of War, PlayStation 4 only.
I don't care about that. I mentioned this before we started recording, but I really, really want to play Detroit. I watched a Let's Play of the first mission or the first encounter, or whatever, the first chapter.
I know it's completely counterintuitive based on just how the way the market works and everything, but I really wish both Sony and Nintendo was more accepting of the personal computer.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I realize there's no way in hell because those are system sellers, unless something happens to Nintendo that they have to cash in.
Yeah. Alrighty. Moving on to our only news topic of the week.
Yeah, mostly because you wanted a short episode, but good luck with that.
Oh, we could just skip it. I'm all for skipping it.
No, I really wanted to talk about this because it's interesting.
Okie dokie. Everspace dev claims they paid thousands for a pro streamer who played like, and this is a quote, fucking moron.
Yeah, which I did. I played like a fucking moron for free with this game, which I should, full disclosure, I got a review code of this game from a third party. It wasn't directly from the devs, but I did play this game as a review code. So I wanted to be full disclosure here. But there was no money exchanging hands. And the fact that this guy got £5,000 or no, 5,000 euros an hour for a 2-hour block is just mind blowing to me to begin with. They don't name and shame the guy in this, but Reddit was able to figure out who it is. mostly based on the fact that they said Destiny 2 pro streamer, and there's not a lot of those. But yeah, he unfortunately there's not a lot of coverage about a lot of VODs of his coverage of this game. But he supposedly, well, his disclaimer was that, well, I don't really like space games, but I have this sponsored stream to do now after playing Destiny or after playing Fortnite for a while. Because this was during his Fortnite kick. And was really dismissive of the game. And when this story started making the rounds, he actually did a reply to one of the tweets about it, saying the game was freaking garbage. So, yay professionalism.
Yay.
But the reason why I wanted to, it's not really name and shame him, but it's more talk about this in general. Because this is more of a marketing thing. And I noticed that you just spotted the second link I had here. He's King Gothalion. And the reason why I wanted to name him isn't to, be a complete dick. Well, not completely. But it's more the site I found that shows exactly what he plays. And Everspace is not even close to anything on his list. And the link in the show notes is his... that night stream. You could see this huge drop off once he mentions Everspace just before he switches over to it. I mean, that's a rather impressive drop off, huh?
Yeah.
Something like from 4,000 to under 3,000 and kind of just hovers there. Which, I realized that there would be a drop off, but also, he doesn't play these type of games, so he doesn't really gel with it. If you click his games under here and go by total airtime, his top games are Destiny with 27 days, Fortnite with 22 days, which is fucking impressive for how long Fortnite's been out, and Destiny 2 with 22 days. And then you start getting into things like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for 10, Sea of Thieves for 10, which that's more of a personality-driven game, so, it makes sense that a streamer would be playing that, because nobody else should be fucking playing that, right?
Absolutely. The streamer shouldn't even be playing it.
Borderlands 2 Monster Hunter World for 4 days, Tom Clancy's The Division, talk shows with him just chattering away, and Warframe. None of those are even close to Everspace, which is a roguelite space combat game. The closest you get is on the second page with No Man's Sky, and that's not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, there are some people who will just watch
anything,
whatever. Yeah. But either you're going to someone for their personality or the game that they're playing.
Or a combination of both.
Or a combination of both, yeah. And I would say that the big drop-off is the people who didn't care about Everspace. They were there for the Fortnite.
Yeah.
And they left. And the people who were there for him
and he played
stayed.
Everspace for just shy of 2 hours, according to the chart here, which really means that he didn't get any growth, and the people that were dropping off were not really replaced. So yeah, it's just fascinating to me that it's essentially $10,000 a night for a sponsored stream, which the Everspace devs are pissed with this random Yahoo, which granted some of the clips I've seen of them, random Yahoo definitely is a good descriptor of them. But
I will play literally any game you want, developers, if you pay me $10,000 a night. Anything, I will play it. And I will pretend to love it.
Oh, see,
for $10,000
I'll be completely honest, but I won't play like a fucking moron. I'll at least put some time into the game so I have some skill at it. Which I realize this just puts me above about 80% of games journalism.
Hey-o.
Oh, sorry, bloggers. They're bloggers when they're not being journalists. That's right. But this is more really getting into just how games are marketed these days, and just going after blindly the top streamers, which 4,000 on what was the date here. October 22nd, 2017. This was when the expansion launched, not the original game. So, October 22nd, that's a Sunday. So, a Sunday night, just before midnight. And he also gave it a fucking bad slot. Sunday night at 10 o'clock. That just screams contractual obligation, doesn't it?
Indeed.
This was more just... agencies need to understand that Twitch isn't a blind tool, that YouTube isn't, you just don't throw a game at PewDiePie and expect it to sell. There's certain demographics, there's certain markets that you have to really look at, and some of these agencies just don't understand that, it seems. Which is kind of surprising to me, because you would expect, advertising agencies that specialize in video games, I'm assuming, would do more market research than just, giving someone 10,000 euros. Like, you wouldn't say pounds, but it's euros. I'll blame 80 Days for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And also it really surprises me that there's Destiny 2 players. I think that's the big takeaway. There's Destiny 2 players? Or pro streamers?
Pro streamers for anything, I guess.
But yeah, that's really all really wanted to talk about, was just, how we're kind of just still in this Wild West of trying to figure out how to utilize what they called it, the influencers, which I absolutely hate that term. I mean, that sounds so scummy, doesn't it?
It doesn't sound scummy to me, but I don't like it. It feels awkward.
It feels awkward, and it doesn't give a positive image, at least in my mind. We're going to influence you. We're going to make you want this. Which, granted, it did work for us, only on a different game.
Yeah.
But, well, to be fair, we wanted it before, but it was more finalizing the thing. But it's just... It just feels scummy, I guess. It feels icky. It feels dirty. But, you have to make sure that if you're giving your game to someone that is more personality driven, that he doesn't play like a fucking moron.
Yeah. Pick someone who plays space games. There are lots of streamers who
or
play space
roguelites in general, because or rogue games, because I looked at this list, and which this is a very handy site. I'm going to have to keep a hold of this. I mean, his top list is just all shooters. Closest you get to roguelite is things like Sea of Thieves, maybe, but that's more just random request. I'm just going through here, and now you're down to under a day of playtime. Oh, granted, this is streaming time, and could be what he privately likes. It's completely different, which is very possible. But he doesn't. Once you get out of the top 10 games that he's done, he doesn't play him for a long. Which just screams to me that he doesn't have the audience for that particular genre, right?
Yeah, probably not. Probably doesn't. I mean, it seems to be people who like shooters.
Well, I shouldn't say under a day. I'm talking about under 3 hours for most of these, which is usually about a stream or under a stream.
Yeah.
So, I think that is about it. I just kind of wanted to vamp on that for a bit and delay you from playing Battletech for some more.
Uh-huh.
I could feel the stink eye.
Uh-huh. All right, let us move on to our community corner for this week, where we have some tweets.
Yes, we do. It's from that one guy, Kyle, and Mel's. Worthy conversation. I'm going to start playing Spore again, me. Mel's. Okay, 30 minutes later. I have a rough creature design. Mel's. What the fuck is that? I can't tell if it's coming or going. What the fuck is wrong with you? Was it that dangling face one, or no digestive system tripod? Bells is asking in another tweet, and Kyle says, either or both. I don't know. Shaking my head.
Nice.
See, I did a callback there. But yeah, that's all the tweetage we have. And if you wish to have some more content in this, you could email us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, or tweet us, vglpodcast, on the Twitter. See, I was able to get it in before you quickly moved along to more Battletech.
No, I paused to let you do that.
Well, I know you're usually rushing me along.
Alrighty.
So, are we going to queue?
Actually, I would like to skip Discovery Queue, and it's not just for Battletech. I got a text from Katie. She says she wants to talk to me.
All right.
So, let's skip the queue this week and move on to the wrap-up stage, the portion of the podcast where I go first. And what is coming this week? More scheduled Divinity before we wind up running out of episodes again. There's still a few more in the can. On top of that, there, of course, will be the podcast. And that's about it. I had a busy weekend and also a slightly sickish weekend. My throat, my allergies, and particularly just like killing my throat, which makes it obviously difficult to record anything or stream or do literally anything. My voice has held up pretty well tonight, but I'm going ham on the cough drops, so that's part of it. And also, warm beverages and room temperature water.
Yeah, well, so, I almost always have room temperature water when I record. Even though I did have a little bit of apple juice earlier.
Last week in particular, it was last week we recorded Divinity 2 nights in a row, and then we did the podcast, and then I played Star Wars RPG, and then Thursday my voice was cracking. It sounded like I was on the verge of crying all day because my voice was so cracky and sad sounding.
Wait, that's different?
But yeah, a little bit different.
Oh.
But yeah, so I don't know what I'm gonna get to. Just we have the stuff that's already in the can and the stuff that's the most important in the lineup.
Yeah, which this is number one priority, or would that be number 5 priority?
Yes.
Oh, let's see. I was going back to Battletech again.
I know. I said yes. But anyways, if you want to find the stuff that is the highest of priorities on my YouTube channel, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I tweet about all kinds of things, there have been some more random tweets here recently and less politics tweets.
Well, are you getting tired of Trump? Or I should say, getting used to him?
I hope not. But I've honestly been trying to be intentional about doing other things on Twitter than just politics, because it got pretty crazy there for a while. And I don't want to be crazier. So, but yes, there have been some more random tweets this week, and if you want to find those tweets, you can do so by following me at JMA4707. If you want to watch me stream things on Twitch and use the Twitch Premiere system to put up our podcast as sort of a live show and other things, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And if you want to be my friend on Steam, where I accept all friend requests and like to chat with the lovely people, you can do so by sending a friend request to jarthur4707. And occasionally I like to drop a reminder that I am, in fact, a real-life therapist. And
you're not just a simulation.
No, I'm not just a simulation. And I do talk to people in the community from time to time. And you can rest assured that if you just need someone to talk to or vent to, I am available for you to do so.
For all the Steam trading cards.
Yes. Not really. I mean, tips of Steam trading cards are appreciated, but you don't actually have to.
Yeah, you just want the tip. You just don't want the tip.
Well, just the tip.
Not the entire summer sausage.
I'll eat the entire summer sausage. Let's be real. I'll eat that whole thing because summer sausage is delicious. And I know what reference you were I know what you were getting at, but summer sausage is really delicious. All right. So, but anyways, I just like to drop that every once in a while. It's been a while since I've dropped that little thing. So,
and if you
there you go.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, The password for this week has been changed and is now summer sausage.
Nice.
Because I had something completely different, but no, summer sausage. That works. Let me just make a note of that, so I don't use it again later. Okay, so my stuff. Things are still running pretty normally. Well, for the most part. I mean, Divinity's looking a little in trouble just because, I haven't had a recording week in the last week, and we didn't have a lot of extra, but we'll figure that out, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm coming up on the end of SteamWorld Dig or not. They talked about the ending, but I honestly think I'm nowhere near it. But, it's a false ending, or there's going to be something else I got to do before it. So we'll have to see on SteamWorld Dig. That's been interesting, though. RimWorld is still chugging right along. Things are actually going pretty well on that, which for RimWorld, that's a huge red flag. The calm before the storm. So we'll have to see how things go for that. And if you wish to be a colonist in my RimWorld series, I haven't done this in a while on the podcast either, and join the Victims of Circumstance, you can send me a message, Caffeine Rage on Twitter, or Caffeine Rage on Steam. And you can also tell me Summer Sausage if you really want to. The Summer Sausage and the Sunday Sampler are also going rather well, and we'll see how that turns out this weekend. If I can pull myself away from BattleTech, which I can hear you wanting to save the podcast right now, so I'll say, if you wish to catch our show notes, you can do so with our RSS feed, VGLpodcast.podbeam.com, or you could also catch us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever Jared has shoved us. I'm not going to do the email again. Okay, I'll do the email again. VGLpodcast@gmail.com or VGLpodcast on Twitter. Or if you want to help pay for this absolute insanity, you're being very quiet.
I'm just letting you go through.
This is unnatural silence.
I'm not slowing you down. I know you're slowing down on purpose.
No, actually, I'm not. It's just I was a little worried that the connection dropped out or something.
Fair enough. But no, I'm just letting you go.
Patreon.com/VGL podcast. If you've enjoyed us and want to toss us a few bucks. Our intro and outro is On the Ground by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find his work at incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye now.
So, BattleTech?
Oh, yeah. Well, first I have a conversation with my wife, and then BattleTech.
All right, I'll see you in the back bay.